Hello, everyone. Happy Thursday. We are broadcasting you on a Thursday rather than on a Friday, just because tomorrow is fairly Good Friday out with the pandemic. It looks like every other day. But we're trying to keep positive. Um, we're going to have um, some updates for you today, some on the government programs, others would be on things that we feel it's very important for the dental industry to know of what to do and how to do it during the pandemic. Um, Let me pull up the list of topics that we have. Let me just select it here. Here it is. Make it smaller a little bit. I'll put this kind of in the center here. Um, yeah, I guess we can start. Today we have James kicking off our broadcast here. He's going to talk about one of his most favorite topics under the pandemic and everything. Take it away, James.
My apologies. Can you hear me now? Awesome. Um, Again, thank you, Alex, for that. One of my favorite topics of all time that you can always get my attention on is hockey. So, of course, through the pandemic, as we all have our favorite things that we like to do outside of work, we're glued to the news on our favorite topics. Now, the one thing that, other than having the NHL season resume, that I was really keyed in on was been some articles that have come out lately about two of the manufacturing companies that manufacture equipment for hockey in general have switched gears, and instead of making protective equipment and more sticks and things like that right now, they've actually joined in the COVID fight, and they're now making protective equipment for medical professionals, including masks and face shields as well. So CCM and Bauer's sister company Cascade, they're all making. CCM is also included in making protective face. One recent article that came out with CCM is they're going to donate. We are all in this together, and a few months back. And then there was another article that came out too that I thought was relatable to the other topic. So it's from the New York Times, and basically said, with the games paused, the sports companies shift to making medical equipment. And this article basically talks about how a team of engineers and a few people from Formula One Mercedes had met up in a pub a little while back, and within 100 hours of that meeting, and 10 days later, basically they had already a working CPAP machine and respirator machine to help out in the cause as well. Further down in the article, it just reads through. Here, I'm just going to bring this up because I thought that this was a pretty good fact. We're approaching 200 already that are in circulation within the last few weeks. And they have the go-ahead to produce up to 300 a day now for a week, and then it's going to be 1,000 every day going forward from there. So again, just talking about things that a lot of us enjoy, such as sports, and to see these companies coming out of their shell to do something else and to do something humanitarian other than give us the enjoyment of entertainment is a huge thing. And it really was kind of a feel-good spot in the amount of news that we do see that's coming out on the virus daily. So I wanted to share that because, again, I like the sense of positivity in where these companies are helping out. And again, this doesn't just pertain to the medical end. Again, this is going to go across the globe, but that is what we're going to be seeing here in Canada as well. And one last article I wanted to touch on was without political consequence at this point. Huawei, the phone company, is also donating a million masks to Canada as well, with more that are on their way. So the reason I say the political thing is obviously we want to keep that out of as many conversations as possible, and focus in solely on the facts. But then again, it also shows that no matter what's kind of going on in a back end situation, that they are trying to join the fight and help out wherever that they can too. So I thought that was a really inspiring thing to kind of hear, that even companies with political boundaries are doing what they can to help us all out.
I agree. I think this is a very important piece of information, and it connects directly to our next topic. I think that the importance of pivoting, and every time I hear or read the word pivot, I can't help but have Ross Geller from Friends and the episode with the sofa where he's yelling, "Pivot, pivot!" But it's true. When things as drastic as a pandemic happen, not only you have to join the bigger cause, you also have to shift your business. A lot of these companies have seen a drop in their sales, and similar to other companies pivoting their production, if they're able to design and engineer something that will both help the battle against the pandemic, um, but also to keep their business afloat, they're doing it, and it's not only inspiring, but it's also proves that there are smart people at the helm there. So that's really good. And on the same topic, I guess our next one is how does this relate to your continuity plan in the dental realm with your patients? And Jay's gonna touch upon that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. And yeah, that was a really good point and very inspiring to see those huge companies doing great things for humanity in this time of pandemic, right? So as for us now, for those of us that are at home, like in the industry, whether you're actually working in the dental setting, whether you're the dentist, you're the hygienist, you're whatever your role is. Now we have all the time in the world, and on the lighter note, like those of us that are not really directly infected by the by the virus, like you get so bored being at home, and you would see in social media there's a lot of memes out there going around, right? So talking about social media, then that's the technology where almost everybody is familiar of, right? Like you reach now a generation where everybody from, like, as soon as somebody can watch TV or hold the phone, like for a 2 year old until like you're 80, as long as you can still comprehend, they use social media, right? So somebody who is a toddler to a grandparent, everybody's on social media. So what does that mean to us? So that means that, like, technology has brought everybody in that level where we can communicate and share that information. So now, why don't we? I was reading on an article, like, why don't we capitalize on that? Why don't we use that? We shouldn't. We understand that that associations and public health has recommended or some, like, mandated some treatments, and just suggested to do emergency treatments, but then a lot of them are not doing emergency treatments because of lack of PPE. So now, going back to that social media, what can you do? Well, you don't have to wait until everything is back to normal to actually redo your marketing or communicate with your patients. Why don't we not use this time to actually connect with your patients? A lot of you guys that are watching this, like, you found us, that this may be helpful. I'm thinking that you guys would be, technically, or well, you guys are technically inclined because you found us on YouTube. So why not use that platform to communicate to our, to your patients, right? And people need to go away sometimes as a breather and not just see everything about, news about COVID, right? About this pandemic. Still have this communication. Like shoot video if you have a social media account or a Facebook account. Why not post some videos of you, the doctor, the owner, yourself. I always hear this from Alex when we visit offices. He would say, like, for example, for the recare, or those missed appointments, he would often ask, who calls the patients when they missed an appointment? And most of the answer would be the receptionist or the hygienist. But then Alex would say, "Well, why not the dentist?" And they would give this odd look, like, "Why the dentist? Why?" Well, it actually makes sense. And this article was mentioning that too. That it would be nice to hear from the dentist himself, right, or the dentist herself, because we have a lot of time in the world right now to do that. And how just seeing how they are doing, and it builds, like, you're building value for that patient. They're not going to forget about you. You're thinking of their oral health, right? So use those times, and not just that, like, post some lighter side of what everybody's doing. Send a message that you guys may be working from home, or things like that, just to make that connection. And since you're making that connection, another thing that you can post on is not just telling everybody that, hey, we're closed for 3 weeks or indefinite because of this pandemic, but then you can use this platform again, these social media or your email reminder system for your recare. Why don't you use that? And you're not just communicating that, yeah, we're closed and we'll book you some other time, but then change up the content. Give suggestions now that like people are due. What can they do from home? What can they do to maintain their oral health, right? So capitalize on that. Use the technology that you guys have, because you're having there's a lot of people that are still going into the office. Then might as well, instead of just sending an email saying, yeah, we're closed, but give a piece of advice on what they can do, right? So that patients can actually remember you, and that time that this is over, then it's easier for them to come back to your office because they know that you cared for them. And another thing going on, as we're talking about technology, we've seen a lot of offices now that offer virtual consultation. There's a lot of platforms. Facebook Messenger, there's Zoom, there's Skype, there's Teams. There's so many things out there. FaceTime, whatever you have, right? So use those things to connect to your patients and have these virtual consultation. And I know we've touched on this a little bit, I think last week. But then, before, not just going in there, you don't just jump into that. Just a piece of advice is, of course, before you jump into giving consultation, you have to make sure that you have their file, right? You have their file open so that you know what's going on, and the historical information of that patient of yours. So this all boils down to presence, to your presence, so that you are there for your clients. And with all these things, this is we just try to use whatever we have right now and just continue living life, right? So that's for your patients, but what about for your teams? So in our office, as you can see right now, you see us in like four corners of your screen, right? We're all in the comforts of our home. And we often have video conference meetings, right? So do that with your staff too. See how they're doing. And I know like a lot of staff are now laid off, but then it's important. Like we need each other right now. We need to have that sense of community. So even if you're not like they're not getting paid, or they don't want to do anything about anything in the office, but just have that sense of relationship, right? So that because that's what matters. That's what would get us through this situation. And yeah, that's it for me. So as a recap, if you if you don't know what, if you forgot everything that I said, capitalize on technology, use your social media to connect to your patients and with your team. That's it for me. Thank
Thank
you.
you. That is awesome, Jay. Thank you very much um, for that piece of advice. I think it's very important. Being able to stay in touch is a very important point and is one that I'll probably talk a little bit more on as I have the last point here. It's directly connected to what you have. Um, I know that a lot of people are troubled with the government programs and are trying to stay up to date. So we want to, if you weren't able to figure out what's right or wrong, we want to give you a recap of what the update is and what we know so far. And we're going to do that with the generous help of Mike and Noel here.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Alex.
Alex.
So, as you had mentioned, just kind of recapping on what has happened with the SIR program, the government has actually just initiated the payments for that. So I believe it was last night that they went ahead and released that payment. So everyone woke up with funds in their account now, which is great. Though a lot of people took to social media confused as to why they received two different payments. A lot of them requesting to refund that money back, handle it in that kind of way. Though a statement was released that apparently the two payments were actually an intended thing, that the first payment was actually a retro payment that came from March 15th all the way to April 11th. And then the second payment's supposed to cover from April 11th for the next 4 weeks, which would lead us to May 9th. So one thing that they did reiterate that even though two payments were released, that this is a monthly payment system. So you would have to wait 4 weeks before your next payment. So hence that another payment should not be coming out until May 9th. But this is just covering the CERB aspect of it and it isn't included with the EI portion. So as for that, hopefully everything ties out smoothly and come May 9th, you get that next payment, helping everybody out here in Canada.
That's thank you, Mike, and that's quite informative of the additional $2,000 every month. And as for me, the what we'll be discussing or relaying to you guys are something to do with the small businesses as well as the students who are looking to get jobs in during summer at the end of the school year, and some of the small businesses are not covered with the CERB program. And one of the program that has been implemented or recently announced is the $40,000 grant coming from the government, which in if you pay the 75% before December 31st, 2022, the then 25% will be like a weight off or will be write off or something like that. That will be total to $10,000. And for the students who are looking forward to get the summer jobs, there will be an update. There's but according to the Trudeau government, the help is they're working on that as well. So for students that's looking to work in summer to get their part-time jobs as well as pay up on the student loans, hang in there. Help is on the way. And that's it for me.
Thank you very much, Noel. What I want to share is a little bit more information on that 40,000 zero interest loan. There's some eligibility criteria, as you can see on the screen from our bank, specifically from RBC. That's who we bank with. So one of the criteria is the T4 needs to be between $50,000 and $1 million for 2019, and your business is not a holding company. So that those types of requirements are important for this particular loan. And if you plan on taking that on, just make sure that you qualify for the criteria. That's good. Thank you, everyone. I want to basically pick up on what Jay has mentioned in terms of communicating with patients. Um, I know a lot of dentists in particular, but a lot of business owners try to shy away from the word marketing because they think this is they run a medical facility, and that is what it needs um, to be considered and run as. The reality is that nowadays, with a pandemic or without, there's a lot of competition, and just because you're able to do dentistry and you claim to do the best dentistry, it doesn't necessarily mean that a lot of the patients or the people that live around your office are going to come to you. So marketing, if we want to use a different word, I would use potentially not a word, but a phrase is what do you want to be known for? And um, as we focus on that type of a question, um, I think that this particular timing is crucial for the ability for the people who owns the business, who has their name on the door, to really have the communication with the patients, to show vulnerability, to reduce that distance that you have as an authority and a dentist and a doctor and a patient. The pandemic doesn't really care if you're a doctor or a patient. It will hit you in the same way. So, if anything, it's a little sobering, and it basically sets everyone to be the same. And as such, I think the ability to communicate with your community and build the community through information, whether it's about oral health or not, um, is extremely important. I'm following quite a few Canadian dentists, business owners that have been doing an exquisite job of doing that. Dr. Jan Jaffer out of Alberta is one of them. He owns multiple practices, and he's his approach to this pandemic has been really remarkable. I recommend all of you to find him on social media and follow him. He's an amazing individual. One of the Dental Happy Hour episodes, we actually recorded one at PDC, and this will be released later this year for everyone to watch. But his story is amazing, and he's been um, um, exhibiting real leadership for him, his employees, and his patients. And he's been doing a great job in marketing who they really are and what he wants to be known for through the social media. So if you want to benchmark and understand how to do it the right way, again, you don't have to be Jan Jaffer, but you can be yourself. But you can look at what he's doing and see if it works for you. I think that's really, really important. I think you're not, we want to look at that in terms of marketing or advertisement. Obviously, this is not the right timing for, mailing flyers of, hey, come for a tooth whitening and we'll give you a free electric toothbrush. Obviously, if you haven't understood that, that can be perceived and interpreted by potential patients as something that has a bad taste. What you want to do is you want to create, if you want to do a flyer, if you already have a contract with a company to print and distribute a flyer for you, what I recommend for design would be maybe 10 tips from your dentist or from Dr. John Smith on how to keep your oral health when you are isolated at home, or whatever way you want to phrase it. that would carry substantially more benefits, especially if you have two lists. One on one side would be for adults, and on the other side would be for children. I think this is very, very important and something that can be perceived as really important, can be something that people even put on their fridges. Um, and those things people will remember because whatever conditions that are not being treated right now, because it's not an emergency, is going to be an emergency. And when this is all over, people will be looking for a dentist. And you want to know that, you want to make sure they know that there is in their neighborhood someone who cares about them, who engages them, and does things a little differently than your traditional one. One last thing that I wanted to mention is because we work with a lot of clinics, still to this day, there are many, many, many clinics without a website. And although yes, you can get away with having a Facebook page, a website is something that's really important. You can create websites fairly in a non-expensive way if you want, but you want to have a website that is appealing. You want to have a website that projects to the patient that this is high quality services, and you want to make sure that it has enough information to the various patients with regards to the various services that they might need, and pros and cons. A smile gallery of before and after for various treatments, so patients can self-identify and say, "Oh, this is what my smile looks like right now, and this is what it could look like after." These are things that are extremely important to patients and are very important for um, your your clinic, whether it's during the pandemic or after it. And I think we all now have more time to start thinking about how are we getting ourselves out and what is our life going to look like once we are able to open our clinics and see patients again. Um, so I think understanding that you want to build your brand right now and how to do it is very important, and I think um, you should put some thought into it. We're always here to recommend any sort of recommendations from our vast experience. We'll also be coming out with some graphic design services for dentists, hopefully later this month. I think this is an amazing time to capitalize on your marketing assets as a company. And we want to be able to offer something that will help you get there. So once we have something more solid, we'll probably communicate that to everyone. So unless we have anything else we want to share, I think we're gonna be wrapping up pretty soon. What do you guys are thinking? Any last comments or thoughts?
There was someone who chatted in, who was the doctor. I mentioned, if I'm not mistaken, it was Dr. Jan Jeffer, right? That's who you mentioned.
Yes, Dr. Jan Jaffer. He's from Alberta. Okay, sounds good, guys. So thanks everyone for your input. We're gonna probably next time is gonna be the actual Friday, and it's good. Stay safe, stay social distancing. What's gonna be the date then? Let's see, the 17th of April, and it's gonna be awesome. We're gonna bring you more information. Until then, thank you very much, and we'll see you then.
All right. Thank you, guys.